Today we are beginning a brand new series entitled Relationship Games. And we're actually going to be talking about the challenge and the gift of relationships. Now, I don't know about you, but I love sports. In fact, where's Cameron? Cameron's back here, and he said, "Can you tell me why I am wearing black today?" And I said, "I know why you're wearing black today, because today's the 1-year anniversary of the Luka trade." And sure enough, that's exactly why he's wearing black today. Now, I love sports. The problem is I can be a little too competitive. My wife will remind me of that at times. I don't know if some of you... Here's the thing. Here's the real challenge with somebody like me. I have below average athleticism. That wasn't supposed to be a joke. That's just a statement of fact. It's very hurtful. But I have an above average competitive drive. That is a problem. So I remember early in ministry, I was practicing or participating in church basketball league. And when you have a below average athletic ability and above average competitive drive, there's only one obvious solution, and that is you cheat. And so that's what I did, and then I realized after about a year or so, I probably shouldn't do this. This isn't good for my character development or my reputation. And no one was complaining when I quit either. I don't know about you, but there is one area, though we enjoy competition, we enjoy outdoor sports, we enjoy board games, there is one area where competition is not helpful, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I don't know how many of you are competitive. How many of you are competitive? That's just your nature, that's who you are? Yeah. So we had this poll about when you go to play a game, do you play for competition or to win? Do you play for fun, or do you just play out of obligation? And I have the results. More than 200 of you have participated, by the way. Thank you for playing along. Here are the results. 52% of you play for fun. Yeah. You don't have to clap. It's not an accomplishment. It's just... You're fun, aren't you? Yeah, of course. 37% of you play to win. Yeah, I knew you would be excited. We actually lost, by the way. And 11% of you play out of obligation. Yeah, you would be quiet. I knew you would be. You wouldn't want to out yourself. Here's what's funny. The services were different. This service are where the fun people attend. The winners attend the first service. Just tell it, if you're curious. All right. But I'm glad that you're here. So here's my problem. I don't know if you've ever taken the StrengthsFinders test. It lists the 34 strengths, kind of in order. My number one strength, according to this test, is being competitive. The competition, which I don't really know how that is a strength, but it's the reality. It's like there's a volcano thing. And so Sean was saying, I think the average person in our church would be surprised to see how competitive you are, because I don't present to be a very competitive person, and I think most of the time I'm not until there's an opportunity to win. And then for me, I don't even know what it means to play for fun. I don't even have a category for that. It's like so I don't enjoy it. To me, I would say I don't want to play the game because I know what's going to happen inside of me. And so when the staff gets together and we do a board game or we do putt-putt golf, I don't need to play. It's just better because remember the gap between the ability and the drive, and so I'm just going to cheat. I'm going to do whatever it takes to try to achieve the thing. So how many of you would say you're also competitive? Yeah. It's funny how we're a little too proud of that, right? I want to make sure I raise my hand fastest, highest. I am competitive. So as I said, there's one area, though, in which, though we enjoy watching sports because we enjoy competition, we enjoy participating because we enjoy the competition, but when it comes to this area, it is not ever helpful. In fact, it's always harmful. And this is the area where competition hurts us, in the area of relationships. And that's what we're going to talk about. Now listen, this series is not catering to those of us who are married. This is for anyone in all of our relationships. It certainly includes our marriages because our marriages are relationships, but whether it's your relationship with your kids, with your parents, with your coworkers, with your friends, your neighbors, all relationships. This is who we're really talking about in this series. Here's what we know. When a relationship requires a loser, you don't win. Nobody wins. There's a relationship, and when it requires a loser, you think you won, but you didn't win. When anyone loses, everyone loses. And you already know that. Here's the opening question. Have you ever won an argument only to discover you lost? You ever been in that place where you think, boy, I made a good point. That was a zinger. He knows I won this argument. He went to bed knowing I won this argument. He showed up at work knowing I won this argument. But let's be honest, a lot of times in our families, what is it you actually win when you win the argument? Sometimes here's what you win. You're sleeping on the couch tonight. Or your daughter goes to bed crying. Or that relationship that you value is now strained. Yeah, you won, but you really lost. You may have gotten your way, but you lost something far more important. So here's the thing. What is it that we're actually after? What is the win in our relationships? The obvious answer is not a point or an argument. The answer is the relationship. Can you have a mutually enjoyable relationship? And if you need to be the winner, then it's not a mutually enjoyable relationship. And so instead, we're tempted to play these games. And we're going to talk about some of the games we all tend to play. We've all experienced other people playing in relationships. And we're going to use some visual aids to kind of help us get our arms around some of these relationships. But let me just give you a warning right now. If you're sitting beside someone that you know, and you're going to see some games that people play, I want you to do me a favor right now. Would you just go ahead and do that with them and get it out of your system? Because when they start coming up, you don't want to do that. It's not going to be helpful, okay? So somebody in the first service said, hey, we did several of those before it started because we knew this was going to hit home. So if you need to do that, and none of the clearing the throat as we kind of bring the thing up. No shaming here, all right? These are games we all struggle with. Here we go. See if this is you. There is the change game. Trying to fix them, right? I love all these things, no more bad jokes. Like all the ways in which we try to fix people, right? And why is it that we do this? Why is it that we're always trying to secretly change them? The obvious answer is because they need it, right? They're broken. They need to be fixed. But the truth is you knew who they were when you entered the relationship. And when we think we're secretly trying to fix them, they know. It's not a secret because you know how it feels when someone tries to fix you. The change game. Now, here's another game. The guessing game. This is one of the great ones, right? How are you doing? What's wrong? Nothing. How are you doing? I don't know. And then finally it's like, no, come on, really, what's going on? Well, if I need to tell you, then you obviously don't care. It's the guessing game, right? We know this game. We're all familiar with it. And then there's another one, and that is the guilt game. I love this. I guess I'll stay late alone again because some people don't care. He's claiming, well, I'm just going to lunch. This is that subtle emotional pressure we put on people by putting guilt on them. It's sort of saying, look, I want to do this, but I guess I won't be able to go, and I guess I'll go alone because you're unwilling to be a kind enough person to go with me. Or we'll say things like, normal people don't talk like this. Or normal people don't parent like this. Normal people don't have marriages like this. And there's just a lot of guilt that goes into this game. And then there's the blame game. This is pretty straightforward. It's I have no responsibility or accountability or fault. It's someone else. It's always them or others. If you hadn't, I wouldn't have, right? That kind of language. And then we have in this game some passive-aggressive apologies. You've heard these. I'm so sorry I got angry because you were late again. I'm so sorry I got frustrated because you were being idiotic. It's like, well, that's not actually an apology. It's still participating in the blame game. And then, hopefully you're not nudging now. This is not the time to nudge. Here's the comparison game. And this is I compare myself to others. I compare us to others. I compare you to others. How are our kids compared to other kids? How's our marriage compared to other marriage? How's our boss compared to others? How's our employees? How's our company? We're constantly comparing, and we will feel better or worse depending on who we choose to compare ourselves with. And then this is the last one, but this one goes a little deeper, and that is the family of origin game. You are just like your fill in the blank. Yeah, some of you are nervously giggling. Your father, your mother, whoever, your sibling. Like, we have all these comparisons. Here's the thing. Here's what you know. All of these games never work. And yet we're all tempted to play them. We've experienced people who've played them on us. They never work because even when you're right, you lose. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to unpack some of these because some of these are really hard to lay down. But did you know the Apostle Paul 2,000 years ago, when it comes to relationships, he actually introduced a game that he encourages everyone to play, especially if you're a Jesus follower, in all of your relationships. And if you're not a Jesus follower, what I love about what Paul teaches us is it's a way in which we relate with people in a very healthy and winning way. Whether you follow Jesus or not, this is a very healthy way in which to have relationships. So, with that, we're going to look at this letter that Paul wrote to it's called the book of Romans, Romans chapter 12. Actually, in the city of Rome, Paul writes to these Jesus followers who were there 2,000 years ago. And what's fascinating is you look at the city of Rome, which would have been a very competitive culture, and he knows how to speak their language. And so he writes to these Jesus followers, and he introduces a new game, the honor game. And this is the game Paul is going to tell these Jesus followers and teach us, this is how you have relationships. And then, Romans 12, we're going to look at Philippians 2, another letter that Paul wrote, where he goes from telling people how or to do this and play this game to who we can follow that played this game really well, and that is Jesus himself. So we're going to hear Paul say to do it, and then we're going to watch how he describes how Jesus did it, how you can put skin on the honor game. How do we really live with other people in a way that we lay these bad games down and we pick up the game that honors? It's the honor game. So this is, we think we win by winning. He's going to introduce, no, you win by losing. You win by laying things down. That's when everyone can win, when you go first in honor. So here he goes, Romans chapter 12, beginning in verse 10. Look what he says. Be devoted to one another in, say it with me, love. Now, it's tempting when you see these verses, these words, to think of it through a 21st century lens. But when we look at Paul, when he's describing the word love, he's not thinking of it as some soft or emotional lens. Instead, he's thinking of this in the shadow of how Jesus demonstrated his love by going to a cross and laying down his life. It's a sacrificial act. So when he says love, think of this lens through which Paul would have been writing, this very sacrificial demonstration of love. And he's saying, I want you to be devoted to one another in love. But now think of what he's saying. As he's writing to these Roman competitive people, he knows to play toward their competition. So those of you who feel like, hey, I got to win, he's going to give you the way to win in relationships and a way to honor. Here's what he says. He says, and if we break this down in the original language, the Greek language of this verse, it says, to give honor, this is tiun, this is this idea of giving value, of respecting other people. And then he says, I want you to do this to one another, allelon. This is the idea of mutual respect. There's the sense of one, and then there's an emptiness. This is how we both win, is when we're mutually respecting and valuing one another. And then the last word is proigeon. And this is the idea of, here's the competition. He says, and see if you can go first. Here's the competition. Could you be the first to honor? Because let's be honest, here's how we really want to do it. I'll honor him if he'll honor me. I'll honor my boss if they'll honor me. I'll honor the friend if they'll take that back. And he goes, here's the way a Jesus follower behaves. We go first. Not when it's deserved, but because we're going to be devoted to one another in love, and we're going to go first. That's the competition he's inviting us to participate when it comes to our relationships. Will you be the first to honor? And he goes on to say, so be devoted to one another in love, and then honor one another. The last two words. Above yourselves. above yourselves. So what even is honor? This is seeing someone as important, as valuable, respecting them. To honor someone above yourself feels a little diminishing. But Paul in no way says that. Instead, he says, you are choosing to show honor. You're going first. And so then you say, well, how does that look? Well, Paul was ready for that question because after he tells us to do that, he writes a separate letter to Christians in the city of Philippi. And he says, here's who's already done this. And let's follow his lead. Jesus did this. So he writes in Philippians chapter 2 exactly how to do that. Watch this in Philippians chapter 2. He says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. And by the way, we can pause there. Say, what does it look like to do things out of selfish ambition or vain conceit? The guessing game, the comparison game, the blame game, the change game, the family of origin game. All those are selfish ambition and vain conceit. Instead, he says, in humility, value others, here it is again, above yourselves. Value others above yourselves. Now, this is sometimes hard to get our arms around because let's be honest, we don't see it very often in our culture. It's always me and take care of what I have and my perspective and my desires. And one of my favorite examples of this, just in my own life, is my wife Ginger. This was several years ago. We were in California, and she was a nurse in a district of a Title I school in Santa Paula, as a neighboring city. And there they had a lot of students. In fact, the far majority of students were children of immigrants who were working out in the strawberry fields. And this one little boy, his name was Jesus. He was about 9 or 10 years old. Ginger is walking down the hall and she sees kind of a frustrated staff member ask, what's going on? How's it going? And she said, well, I've got this kid, this little boy who's in the bathroom, the boys' bathroom, but he's locked himself in the stall. And no matter what I do, I can't get him out. And so Ginger comes in and she tries the same thing, and sure enough, he has locked himself sitting in there. He's in the stall. He is not coming out. And so Ginger decided in her skirt to crawl underneath the stall and to sit on the floor with him. And of course, he had these big eyes like this woman just crawled underneath the stall and is sitting beside me on the bathroom floor. But she had to demonstrate value and importance and respect. And eventually, Jesus was ready to come out. She took him home. Grandparents were there. He just wanted to show her his cat. And he felt seen. And this is one of the hardest things to do. What does it look like? Sometimes, here's what valuing others looks like. It means I lower myself and I crawl under the stall. And I sit in the floor with someone else, not till I think they're seen, but they feel they are seen. And in that way, Paul makes this point. I want you to honor one another above yourselves because I want to honor you by looking down. It's a different thing to honor you by crawling under the stall. And you may say, well, now, Mark, nobody's actually more important than me. No one's actually more valuable than me. But Paul never makes that claim. Paul says, I want you to treat them as if they are more valuable and as if they are more important. He goes on to say, in all your relationships, now we're back at Philippians because he wants to use Jesus as the model. He says, with one another, here's what I want you to do. I want you to have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. Okay, well then, what was the mindset of Christ Jesus, who, as many of us know the story, Jesus showed grand humility as God to come to earth for us. He crawled under the stall, as it were, and he sat on the bathroom floor for our benefit. He was born in a manger for our benefit, so we could know what it's like to have a relationship with God himself. So God the Son showed us and demonstrated, and he came to us. He didn't say, get to me. He came to us. He went first in showing honor, in valuing us. So I love this verse. Verse 6 says, who, Jesus, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself, say it with me, nothing. Jesus, God, perfect, holy, sovereign, all-powerful, chose to make himself nothing so that we could have access to God himself. He served me, he served you. And then how did he make himself nothing? Watch this. By taking on the very nature of a servant. Paul says, I want you to follow what Jesus did. And so he invites us, all of us, in our relationships, to quit trying to win, but instead he invites us to play the honor game. Because when we play the honor game, everybody wins. So back to our original question. Have you ever won an argument only to discover you actually lost? And how can you win and everybody win? How can you win and you win? Well, the bottom line that Paul wants us to know is when you honor others, that's when everybody wins. And that looks different. Right? It might be you doing chores around the house. It might be you honoring your children, speaking love into them, being gracious and patient with them. At work, it could look very different in the way that you honor others, but I bet as you look at opportunities to honor other people, God will reveal steps that you can take to honor other people. But that's a different goal in the relationship, isn't it? To have as the bullseye honoring the other person instead of winning the argument, making the point, honoring the other person. How can you outserve them? How can you outgive them? How can you out-encourage them? This is the way in which we honor. One of the things I love about the New Testament, it has all these one another's. 61 one another's in the New Testament. These are ways in which we honor other people. And the question is, well, how do I participate in that? Where can I learn that? Because it's so countercultural. And you're right, it is countercultural. Where can I learn the one another's of relationship living, to honor other people? And I want you to know it's one of the passions of our church is for you to find community. And when you find community, you have found an atmosphere in which you and I can grow in practicing the one another's, where we can grow in honoring other people. And I want you to hear from my friend John Bilo as he explains his own experience with community.
Well, I've been going to church at the Creek for many years, and with my wife and Whitley. And after the pandemic, we lost my wife to COVID. And the church has come together. They surrounded us and Whitley and me, and I just felt so much love from the church, and I didn't want to lose that fellowship. So we joined a life group that had similar age children with Whitley, because I want to make sure that she had a support system that she could grow up with and look to and have a strong kind of tribe to help her in her time. And it turned out that the life group actually helped me. We were going through a study of Job, ironically, and him going through loss and me going through loss, and using my story as an example that it does take many people. It takes the pastor, it takes the life group, it takes friends, family, church family to bring me out of the depression I was going through. And now I'm serving, and I've been fulfilled in serving. I've seen my daughter grow, mature beyond her years, and I've never been more proud for what the church has done for my family. And I just look forward to welcoming others into our groups, and hopefully they can get the same encouragement and growth that I have in my years.
I love that from John. Hopefully they can experience the same encouragement and growth that I have through the years. I love that line so much, because one of the things that we believe so strongly here at Church of the Creek is that we are not made to do life alone. We are made to be in community with other people. In fact, I'll go further to say, if you are serious about growing your faith in 2026, one of the best steps that you can take is to get into a community group. In fact, I want to to ask you to do me a favor. You were handed this sheet on the way in, this little card. Would you just pull that out real quick? I want to just point out a couple of things before we move on. Because one of the things that we are really passionate about is for you to find that community group. In fact, I would tell you personally, in my own experience over the last couple of decades, that the way my faith has grown the most is in my community groups. That's where God uses other people to encourage me, and I have the opportunity to encourage other people, and we all have our faith grow together. In fact, that's one of the reasons we say, yes, you're in a row right now, but circles are better than rows. That's where your faith is really going to grow. So you have that card, and what I want to point out in that card is we have dozens of small groups that have been, some of them have been meeting for a long time, and they're wonderful, and so many people are having their faith grow in those experiences, me included. But what this card represents is there are 8 new groups that are located right here near this campus. New people, newer to the church, who are opening their homes and want to help you create a community right here in your backyard where you can grow your faith. And so what you can do is you can look at that card, you can see when they meet, and you can see what they're going to study. And here's, if you decide to sign up on a group today, and I hope you will, here's what you would be committing to. You would be committing over the next 3 months to go every other week for about 6 times. That's what the commitment would be. Hey, I'm going to try this out. And I know, look, some of you, you've tried small groups before and you had a bad experience, and I want to just say to you, welcome to the club, right? Like, I've had a bad haircut, I kept getting a haircut. If I've had a bad experience at the grocery store, I go back to the grocery store. Sometimes we have a bad experience, but it is worth it because of the way God uses it to grow your faith, to put your hard hat on and re-enter. I want to encourage you to do that today. So after the service today, out in the lobby, we have several high tops, and each of these facilitators, these hosts will be at one of these high tops. You can meet them, you can ask questions, you can just sort of get more information right after the service today. I want to encourage you to consider signing up today. And I know, especially if you're a couple, one of you are like all in, and the other one's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, you have enough time for the rest of the service to kind of elbow each other and make that decision. But I want to encourage you right after the service to make that decision. And for some of us, we're already in a group, or that feels like too big of a step. And so we want to encourage you. Maybe you've seen someone and connected with someone that you would just want to say, hey, can we just go to coffee? I want to meet you. I want to get to know you a little bit. Maybe there are some people who you're ready to take to lunch. Maybe it's today, or maybe it's in a month or 2, and you want to get on the schedule. But would you begin to expand your relationship circle? Because the only way you can play the honor game is to be in relationship with other people. And as Jesus followers, we are to be devoted to one another in love. And the only way we can be devoted to one another in love is we have to be with one another. So I want to encourage you to take a step toward greater relationships and expanding your relationship circle with other Jesus followers who are here in the room. And right after the service, we're going to give you an opportunity to sign up. And as John said, I believe that's where you will experience encouragement and where your faith will grow. Now, I want to land the plane here on our week 1 of our relationship series. As you think about the relationships that you're in, let me give you 3 questions to consider as we close. Number 1, what negative relationship games did your family of origin play? You probably already know. As we were going through them, you may have even thought of your family. It might have been the guessing game. It might have been the comparison game. You think of your family and you see them with the change game. But you grew up in an atmosphere, and the point isn't to blame. The point is to become more aware, because some of us took those games into our adulthood. And now we've carried them with us. And guess what? Those of us who are parents, we've created an atmosphere where some of these games happen more easily. And then we want our kids to grow up and maybe not carry some of these games into their adulthood. What are some games that you've carried into your adulthood that you're continuing to play more than others? And what game do you need to stop playing? That you just know right now, I need to stop this game. And then secondly, who could hold you accountable to stop playing that negative relationship game in your life? Who would you trust to say, look, would you ask me about this? This is something I want to actually do. I don't want to just have a church moment where I felt something and then I walked back to real life and all that went away. But I actually want to put this into practice. Who could hold you accountable? By the way, it's one of the beauties of small groups. You have those kinds of relationships where you can choose to invite people in. And then last question, and this is my favorite one. Who do you need to honor? You probably know the answer to that right now. And what's the step that you can take to honor them this week? I think if you ask God, He will reveal the answer to that question. And I hope you'll be courageous enough to play the honor game this week. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for who you are and your love for us that's just so extraordinary. That though we don't feel as if we deserve it, you love us so much that you sent your only Son, Jesus, to come and in grand humility display his love for us on the cross. God, in that display of love, that demonstration of your grace to us, may we respond and with great honor toward others begin to become more like you. And God, in displaying that kind of honor, well, that is when everybody wins. So I pray that'll be our heart, God. That'll be our week as we place our feet firmly on you. I pray it all. In Jesus' name, amen.